Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a little bit of a look at a deck that's gone and won a tournament over in Japan. And it's all based around Whimsicott GX. And I'm a little bit happy about this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little bit excited. It came around in Unbroken Bonds. Nobody seems to have really been using it, certainly in Europe, North America, etc. But it's gone and seen some love in Japan. So what does it do? Well, the ability here really does stand out. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin. If heads, prevent that damage. Now, your opponent can always drop a power plant, and if they do, they do. But unless they drop a power plant to turn off your ability, they are only attacking you on average half the time. There's no way to manipulate this flip, it is just a straight 50-50 chance. But the goal here basically is, yay, half the time you can actually attack me. And that can be all you need to swing the game in your favour. Now, the GX attack searches for 5 cards and put them in your hand. It's literally Metagross's GX attack. It's fine. There's always a question here of, do you do this in the early game to really set yourself up while making sure that you're more vulnerable to something like a Marshadow or a Judge? Or do you leave this till a late game when your opponent doesn't have those cards left and you basically guarantee you've got the cards to win the game from then on? Cool. And then we have one real main attack here. Energy Blow. 10 damage plus 30 more for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Awesome. And at this stage, we're thinking, okay, fine, but how are we getting the energy onto Whimsicott? Because obviously the theory here is extremely simple. Use the ability to try and give yourself invulnerability half the time, pile energy on, smash to win. How do you pile the energy on? Oh, hey, look! It's our old friend Porygon-Z. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a deck that pretty much is entirely legal right now. There's like one card that isn't, but generally speaking, this is just legal right now. You can go and play this in a tournament tomorrow. This is not some weird Japanese deck. This is a deck that essentially anybody can play. So Porygon-Z then, long story short, it allows you to attach as many special energy during your turn as you like. So you play double colorless energy and you play triple acceleration energy. Remember, you are an evolved Pokemon, therefore triple acceleration energy will provide free energy and Porygon just attaches it. So in theory here, you can just spin a whole bunch of energy on, do a huge amount of damage, and there is always a risk that if you pile the energy on, you're going to get KO'd and lose all the energy. But actually, that's much less of a risk here, because you can take advantage of the ability to try and keep yourself alive for just a little bit longer. And that is largely the deck here. Whimsicott to attack and hopefully use the ability for a bit of immunity, Porygon-Z to whack energy down. This particular list does play basic fairy energy. You could go along and play stuff like unit energy, for instance, though you do run the risk of running into something like Xurkitree who can take advantage of that. Okay then, so what other Pokemon do we have? Well, I told you that this was pretty much entirely legal now, and it is, but there is one Whimsicott which is actually not going to be coming out until Unified Minds. And it's the one that's got an ability whereby when you evolve up into it, you get to search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand. I imagine most of the time it's going to be either a triple acceleration energy or it's going to be a rare candy for your Porygon-Z. But frankly, this gives you added consistency, and you're playing Cottony anyway, so it's literally a one-card deck. That's pretty gosh darned awesome. Okay then, so other Pokemon, fairly standard if I'm honest with you. We got 2 Tapu Lele to go and search out your supporters. We've got a couple of the aforementioned Marshadow to disrupt your opponent. I mean, they're only hitting you half the time anyway. If you can disrupt them a bit more, that's even funnier. And 1 Ditto Prism Star because you're playing a stage 1 deck. you're going to play a Ditto as well. There's no Porygon-2, so your Porygon line isn't going to use this. Remember, you cannot rare candy Ditto into whatever stage 2 you like. But it basically acts as a 5th Cottony, and that's wonderful. Now, in terms of energy, as we've said, we've got basic fairy energy, and then we've got 4 double colorless and 3 triple acceleration energy. If I had to guess, I would imagine this is purely a space issue, because triple acceleration energy in this deck is great. The reason why we prioritize double colorless is what we really want to do is pile energy on and use the ability to be invulnerable and use the energy for another turn or 2 to keep attacking. Triple acceleration energy falling off does kind of ruin that plan. In terms of trainer cards here, we do actually have some fairy specific cards. We've got Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star. This is great because it increases the attack cost of your opponent's Pokemon, as long as they're not fairy, which again, it's one more thing that you can try and do to stop your opponent attacking you, so you're really taking advantage of the ability while also trying to make sure that there are a couple of turns where they can't attack you and it's not just the ability here. And we've got a copy of Diantha. Diantha here is brilliant. It says that when one of your Pokemon was KO'd during your opponent's last turn, it's got to be a fairy Pokemon. You get to put any 2 cards in your discard pile into your hand. Clearly, these are going to be triple acceleration energy. It's also the reason you don't necessarily need to play 4. There might be other cards, but we're clearly going triple acceleration energy here. That seems like a no-brainer. And speaking of energy, we are playing a couple of Viridian Forest here. The theory essentially is that we're not playing that many basic fairy, so this will help us to search them out. That sounds pretty good to me. Remember, you can boost the attack power of Whimsicott however you like, but you've got to have at least 1 fairy energy on there in order to actually get it rolling. That's fairly important. In terms of other supporters here, we've got a couple of Professor Elm's Lecture. Gets out your basics in a deck where you need a stage 1 and a stage 2 line. Getting out your basics nice and early is pretty gosh darned important. Couple copies of Cynthia, just because it's a really good draw card, if I'm honest with you. Couple copies of Lily, because it's the other really good draw card. Couple copies of Guzma to drag Pokemon off the bench, as well as acting as a switch. Remember, this is a deck where, in theory, you can just pile energy onto Whimsicott and KO anything. Being able to pull anything off the bench and KO them is a pretty awesome thing here. 1 Ace Roller. Again, and I've said this a couple times, but let's really hit it home. There are going to be plenty of turns where your opponent cannot attack you because of your ability. But let's say they do attack you, they don't get a 1-hit KO, then you drop an Ace Roller, then next turn they can't attack you. What you're doing here is buying an inordinate amount of turns. And 1 Red's Challenge. You'll notice you've got cards like the new Whimsicott, like Red's Challenge, like Diantha, that specifically let you search out anything that you want, and that's really important for making sure you get that Porygon-Z, for making sure you get that triple acceleration energy. Now, in terms of Pokemon search, we've got 4 Ultra Ball, because it's the only thing that will get everything in your deck, and then a couple copies of Pokemon Communication, because it lets you swap a Pokemon you don't want for a Pokemon that you do. And you're playing quite a few Pokemon here, so it's going to work a fair amount of the time. And then to finish off, we've got 2 copies of Choice Band to do a little bit of extra damage. It's never going to hurt. 1 copy of a Rescue Stretcher to get your Pokemon back. 1 copy of Field Blower to get rid of your opponent's tools and stadiums. And then 3 copies of Rare Candy, not the full 4 because we've got stuff like Red's Challenge and like Whimsicott that we can use if we need. And then a single copy of Reset Stamp. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Reset Stamp is basically at least a one-of in every Japanese deck at the moment. It's absolutely huge. Forces your opponent to shuffle their hand into their deck, draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. If you get behind, you play this, put them down to a low hand size, take a key KO, and Whimsicott can KO anything of enough energy, and oh look. Now you're in a great position to finish out the game. I don't know if I could ever take this deck to a tournament because I am absolutely, utterly terrified of flippy decks. And this is a very flippy deck. This might not be reliable enough for a huge tournament. It really depends how lucky you're feeling. If you can flip a whole bunch of heads here, you are literally going to be invulnerable and win the majority of your games. If, however, you can't, and you keep flipping tails, then maybe you can get enough energy with Porygon-Z to take big KOs. Maybe you can rush, and that is an option. But I think a lot of the time you're just going to find you're a little bit too weak. You need to buy those extra turns. You need to flip those heads. When you flip those heads, oh my goodness, yes. When you don't, sad face. But I'd like to know what you think about this, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to know if you would want to take this to a tournament. I'd like to know how excited this makes you. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.